Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, as per your respective time zone. On behalf of entire Evosys Managed Services team, we'd like to welcome you all to 22C Workforce Management and Payroll Advisory webinar session. We'll wait for next couple of minutes and then we'll begin for today's session, and we can see few more attendees are joining us. So we'll wait for them and then we'll begin. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon once again, as per your respective time zone. On behalf of entire Evosys Mastech Managed Services team, we'd like to welcome you all to this 22C Workforce Management and Payroll session. This important session is to keep you fully synchronized with the new features and functionalities as a part of this quarter release which Oracle provides. My name is Hardik Patel, and I'm an Operations Manager here at this Managed Services Department. And today I'm your host for this session. And I'm glad to introduce my colleague, Vidya Raju, who's part of our vast Hcm team. And she's been serving as a senior principal consultant. And today she'll take us through all the workforce management and payroll updates for this 22C quarter release. Today's session, as usual, is planned for around 45 to 60 minutes. And we'll also make sure that we leave some time to answer any questions you may have. We also have a panelist, Praveen Gehlot, who is also a senior principal consultant. So if you have any complex question or easy questions, he'll be more than happy to answer them today. So you can use the chat or question panels in the tool. Before we go ahead, let's have a look at a quick disclaimer. We'd also like to keep you posted that we're entering the One Mastech family. So from next week onwards, you'll also see an email coming from first name dot last name from Evosys at mastech.com instead of so far you've been receiving from evosysglobal.com. So we'd like to convey your approach towards Oracle updates in a very simpler method. We'll be taking you through vital analyses for the 22C updates done by our experts, which will help you incorporate new features and update easily into your system. We'll also sync you on any bugs or known issues if there are any. It's good to have an interactive session, so as mentioned earlier, please do ask questions through chat or question panel. This is to give you a glimpse on how we have crafted the structure of this session. So the first thing what you see is a list of new features coming into 22C, detailing on features so you get brief understanding on what new features are all about. The next one is what are the business benefits and important takeaway for you as a decision maker. And there are 4 important components where we have done in-depth analysis of the features which we are going to present to you today. The first one is impact level analysis, which demonstrates the impact on the end user. If it's a low impact, then regression testing can be avoided. If it's a high impact, then we need to offer regression testing. And the second one, which is we all are aware that there are some features which are by default auto-enabled by Oracle, and there are some which we need to opt for. And the third one highlights the nature of the feature. There would be certain configurations which may be required, and some can be used without any changes at all. And the last one, which is a quick win. This term we use to simply convey that what is ready to use by investing minimum amount of time and what requires significant amount of time and efforts to make use of this feature. Just before I hand it over to my colleague, we would quickly like to note down on the screen, quick poll, that which industry your organization belongs to. If you can please help out with the same. Just in 20 seconds, we'll begin with today's session. My colleague Vidya, she is excited to present you the release features. So we'll be closing the poll in 5 seconds, and Vidya will begin today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, for your attendance today. Thank you once again, and Vidya, over to you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hardik. A very warm welcome to all of you for the 22C Global Webinar on Workforce Management and Payroll module. So today I'm Vidya Raju and I'll be presenting our analysis of the latest released new features. In 22C, Oracle has given a total of 27 new features in the Workforce Management and Payroll. When we say Workforce Management, it comprises of new features from Absence Management module and Time and Labor module. So we have broadly categorized these 27 new features into two different categories. The first one is which is new features which are available by default, and the second option is where new features have to be opted in by the users. So for the opt-ins, you need to make your judgment and you need to ensure that you require that particular feature before enabling them in your applications. In the default new features, there are 16 features which are quick wins and are easy to use. And there are 2 new features which are not quick wins. In the opt-ins, we have 4 new features which are quick wins and easy to configure and use, and there are 5 which are not quick wins. Further categorizing them, today's session is going to be about these 5 topics. So we are going to categorize these 27 features into 4 different buckets. The first category would be quick wins, default with no configuration. The second set of new features would fall into the category of quick wins, default with configuration changes required. The third category would be quick wins, which are going to be opt-ins. And the fourth section is going to be about all the features which are not quick wins. We are also going to talk about any replaced or removed features in 22C. Now, we are going to talk about quick wins, default with no configuration. The first feature in this particular category is in the absence module, which is retrieve data to reconcile absences and payroll info. If you all remember, in 22A upgrade, Oracle provided us with a report called Absences and Payroll Info Reconciliation Report. So this report was particularly useful in reconciling the data between absences and payroll. Many times there used to be absence entries which does not get transferred to payroll, resulting in lot of payroll errors. So this report was useful in resolving those payroll errors, wherein the report extracts the information from absence module as well as payroll module, reconciles it and provides us with information as to which are the unprocessed and untransferred absences from absence to payroll. I'm sure you all are using this particular report, before your payroll runs to reduce your payroll errors. Now, in 22C, Oracle has come up with an enhancement wherein Excel output format is delivered with this report output. So, using this report output in an Excel format is definitely going to be a bonus to users where they can use it with a greater ease of use. After you submit the extract, you can download the reconciliation report from the data exchange work area in Excel format. So this is going to be an easy and open and you can read the data in MS Excel format. Moving on, the next new feature in absence module is option for no carryover added to the carryover limit rule. Carryover, as we all know, is the process by which unused absence accruals are transferred from the previous plan term to the next plan term. Up until today, we do not have an option where we can select a configuration in the setup to say that we do not want a carryover with a particular absence plan. We always had to rely on fast formula to put this logic in place. Now, Oracle is coming up with a configuration to set up that we do not want a carryover. So we can do this in the absence plans accruals tab in the year-end processing section. So it is in this section that we set the carryover limit rule. So in the carryover limit rule, there is a new option which is going to come up called as the no carryover. When we select this option, it means that there is no carryover that will be done from the previous plan term to the next plan term. So this is going to reduce the fast formula efforts that we will have to put in when we have to configure this particular option. Moving on to the next feature, carryover option of none renamed to no limit. This is again an absence new feature and in the carryover limit. If you have noticed in the carryover limit LOV, we have an option called none. So in the year-end processing section, the carryover limit rule has a list of values where we have formula, include in matrix, flat amount, and there is a fourth option called none. So this none is often misleading and confusing because everyone used to think that none means no carryover. But the original functionality of none is to carry over all unused accrual balances from the previous plan term to the next plan term. But this none was not helping us in terms of the naming convention. So now Oracle has created a new LOV value called no carryover, which we just saw in the previous new feature update. And they have renamed the none option to no limit. So no limit is just the word. So it just does what it's supposed to do. It carries over all the carryover value which is available from the previous term to the next term. So this is a better user experience in terms of clarity of the functionality of the carryover. Moving further, the next new feature is in the time and labor module. Enhancement to payroll time transfer. So we are using the load time card batches flow to transfer the time entries from time and labor module to payroll module. From 22C onwards, Oracle is going to give us a new payroll flow called transfer time cards from time and labor. So this new payroll flow is in the payroll work area. And when you select this particular payroll flow, you are going to see a set of flow parameters here. So these parameters have been provided to provide greater flexibility when we want to use this particular payroll flow. If we are not giving any flow parameters as these are optional, so when we don't provide any values, then all unprocessed absences from time and labor module, unprocessed time entries are going to get transferred from the time and labor module to payroll module. But if you're going to choose a specific from date and to date, so let's say you want to transfer all the time entries from 1st June to 30th June. So in that case, all the time cards which are ending between 1st June to 30th June, they are all going to get processed and transferred to payroll module. So even if a time card is starting in May and it's ending on 1st June, even that time card is going to get transferred. Additionally, we have a filter mode parameter. So this filter mode parameter has four options: Hcm group, payroll, payroll relationship group, and person. So according to each of these options, we have four different parameters as well. When we select a particular option here, the value gets populated in that particular parameter in the left hand side. For example, if I'm selecting Hcm group parameter gets populated with all the Hcm group values. And if I select a Hcm group, only those time entries which are pertaining to that particular Hcm group gets transferred to payroll. This is to provide greater flexibility and to enhance the performance of the process. So unlike the load time card batches process flow, there is no manual intervention that is required in this particular process. So if you remember in the load time card batches process flow, we will have to mark a particular task as completed manually, and only then it will move on and transfer the time cards to payroll and get completed. Here, that manual intervention is not required, and we can seamlessly transfer time entries from time cards to payroll. The next feature in time and labor module, which is definitely a quick win and default with no configuration, is time change request enhancements. Oftentimes, when employees update the time cards and it is sent for manager's approval, and when the managers approve it, there there are errors which result in the time cards. So now Oracle has provided us with an enhancement where Hcm event alerts are provided, and these event alerts help in notifying the employees and managers about the error in the change requests. So in the event alerts, there are two notification templates which are available and are enabled by default in the 22C version. So the first template is notify individuals of in error change request, which will send FII notifications to the employees when the particular time card has run into error on a particular date. The second template is for managers. Notify managers of a subordinate's in error change request. This is going to notify the managers of a time card change request in error. Additionally, managers can also view the time card change requests in the team change request page. They can click on the summary errors and then they can go through the error messages. In this particular page, they will also have the flexibility to view the before change and after change values. So if you notice here, we have a start time before change and we have a start time after change. So this will help the managers in reviewing the errors and correcting the errors as well. Moving on to payroll new features, which are quick wins and default. So the first feature in payroll category is smart NAV date support. So we all would have observed that in the payroll work area, there are multiple pages where we can do our transaction. For example, element entries. So when you navigate into payroll, you can go through element entries. You can do balance adjustments, and there are different pages in the personal information section. So in these pages, if we navigate to element entries, we can use the search functionality to search for a person, and then we can go through the element entries of that particular person, and we can also set the effective date. The same happens when we have to go to the balance adjustments. We search for a person, set the effective date, and then we make balance adjustments. So now with the new feature coming in place in 22C, we do not have to set the effective date multiple times. So when I navigate to the element entries page and search for a particular person, in the advanced search, if I set an effective date once, then that stays put for the rest of the navigation that I have to do in the other pages. For example, I want to view a person's record as of 31st May. So I click on element entries, I set the effective date to 31st May, and then I go to the advanced search for a person, and then I view the element entries. Now I have going back to the balance adjustments page, and I'm searching for the same person in the balance in the advanced search mode. So now the balance results as of 31st May will automatically get displayed because the context of the effective date gets set there. So now if you are going to change the effective date in the balance adjustments page, then that will not get reflected in the subsequent pages that you navigate, but only the context that you set in the advanced search of the person search page, that will get transitioned to the subsequent pages that you navigate. In the classic UI, there are some pages which do not support this date context. So this feature does not work with pages which does not require a date context. It only works with pages where you have a date effective date context set. So I'm sure this is going to ease the users navigations, and it is going to enhance the user experience. The next feature that we are going to discuss is new messages on the personal payment method page. So many times we have had customers telling us that the employees have deleted the personal payment methods and there was errors in prepayments and payroll processes. And we have also gone to the extent of removing the delete option from the personal payment methods by customizing the pages as well. But now from 22C, I don't think that is going to be required anymore because Oracle is now giving us messages prompting in the personal payment methods page when employees are trying to delete their personal payment method. For example, let us take that there is a new hired employee who does not have any payroll or prepayments processed. So if that employee is trying to delete a personal payment method, the system is going to prompt saying that you are about to delete this payment method. Do you want to continue? So if the employee continues with the transaction, then the personal payment method gets end dated with system date -1. So if it is done today, then the end date will be yesterday. So now the question comes, what happens to employees who have payroll and prepayments processed? So in that case, let us say July payroll is run and then an employee is trying to delete a personal payment method. So in that case, from 22C onwards, there is going to be a message that is going to be prompted which says the payment method is included in a payroll process. The personal payment method will be deleted as of 31st of July. The system decides that the personal payment method should not be deleted and it should only be deleted after the payroll processes are complete. So it sets the effective end date of the personal payment method to the prepayments process end date, which is the end of the month. So this is going to give us greater flexibility, and it prevents the users from deleting the personal payment methods in error and reduces the payroll prepayments errors. So this is definitely going to be a useful feature coming in 22C. So the next feature is calculation entries, effective date field updates. So the calculation entries is a page wherein all the element entries are grouped in different categories. So in there we have a category called as standard entries. Standard entries is nothing but it lists down all the element entries which is available as standard for the employee. So in that particular page, we have an effective date field, and in that field, we have an LOV which gives us three options: all current and future, specific date, user defined date range. While the specific date and the user defined date range options, when selected, prompts the user to enter a particular date, the all current and future does not. So when end dating an element, so you don't have the flexibility to actually select a date and end date that particular element. So now with 22C, all current and future uh, value also will have an end date, will have a date field where users can enter that particular field and then they can select the end date and update option to make changes to the particular element entry. So this date context from the previous page is also retained when endating a particular element. So this is going to provide a better user experience as it prompts the user to enter a date and edit the data based on that particular date. The next feature in global payroll is language translation of element objects. This is a very interesting feature that I've come across in 22C. So till now, we do not have the option to view the element features in language packs which are installed in the application. It only comes up in English. So let's say we have Chinese or Japanese or any language pack which is installed in the application. The element data is not displayed as per the session language of the user. So, but now from 22C, the element features will be displayed in the session language of the user. So, for example, when I say element features, it's the input values, the suffix of the child element names, balances, and formula. And only the predefined element features get automatically translated here. For example, if we go through this particular screenshot here, so in this particular screenshot, all the values are shown in Korean. So a Korean language path is installed, and when the user is setting the session language to Korean, the element input values get automatically translated to Korean. And if you see, only the predefined element input values are translated. The custom element values still remain in English. Also, the element name. Element name is not standard. So the element name is also displayed in English. And when I talk about the suffix in the name of child elements, so that means that when the child elements gets created, for example, a retro element, the keyword retro will get translated into the language pack language. So for example, if the language pack is installed after the upgrade, so in that case, that language will not be considered for the element translation. So this again is going to provide a very useful user experience as the element features are now going to be in the preferred session language. The next feature is responsive balance results, view balances by date. All payroll users will definitely know that if we have to view the balance results, we'll have to go through a lengthier navigation. So we'll have to search for the person, we'll have to click on the payroll process flow, and then we'll have to click on the actions to view the balance results page and view the balance values there. Let's say we want to view the values for May and June. So we'll have to follow the same navigation for June, and then we'll have to repeat the navigation for May as well. With 22C, Oracle is going to give us a new responsive page in the payroll work area called balance by date. In this particular page, users will have the flexibility to search for a person, enter an effective date, and they are going to view all the balances of this particular person as of the specific date. So now that we are talking about dates here, so what balances are going to be displayed? So it is going to display all the balances, but it is going to display only specific dimensions. So dimensions which are can be extracted based on a date context, only those dimensions will get displayed in this particular page. For example, inception to date, year to date, month to date, period to date. So these balances and dimensions give values based on a specific date. So these balance dimensions can be viewed in the new balance by date page. So if we still have to go see the run balances, we have to use the old navigation because run balances are always specific to the payroll run and as the name suggests. So this is going to, this new page is going to enhance our experience because the navigation is going to be quite simpler and we can use this page for multiple purposes. For example, when we are going to do a transfer, so we can view the balances of a person for prior to the transfer date. When we are going to do balance adjustments and want to review the balance values, it is going to be a one-stop page where we are going to see the balance values and the navigation is going to be quite simpler. So the purpose is going to be multifold and it is going to be a useful feature in 22C. The next feature is net pay amount in person results page. So this is again a global payroll feature. So all the classic UI users, you will remember that in the classic UI, in the person results page, we all used to see the net pay against the payroll flow name. For example, when we submitted a calculate payroll process, the person results page is going to give us the net pay against the calculate payroll flow name, and we don't have to actually drill down to see the net pay value. We only had to drill down when we wanted to see additional information about that particular flow. So now in the responsive UI as well, Oracle is going to give us the net pay information on the person results page itself for the below payroll flows for calculate payroll, prepayments, make EFTs, generate check payments, and costing. So these values and are going to be available in the payroll person search page itself. For costing, we are going to see the credit and debit amounts. For make EFT, it's going to be the total amount. For prepayments also, it's going to be the total amount. So if we want to drill down to see the prepayments against a person, and especially if the person has multiple prepayment records, so we can always click on the process flow and then we can go through the additional details. The next feature is retention period for payroll Hcm extracts archive data. So we have a scheduled process called purge extract archive data. So this extract purge process will delete all the records which are archived due to the extracts that are run in the system. So this process has gone through multiple enhancements and Oracle has been providing retention periods for multiple objects or multiple extracts which are run in the system. This time, the retention period is given for payroll information created by the payroll reports. We all know that the payroll reports archive lot of data in the database. So after a couple of months or years, the database, it becomes very heavy and it could also potentially impact the performance of the system. So now Oracle is providing us with a retention period, and it is the best practice is to use this process to delete the archived information beyond this retention period. So these are the payroll reports which will now have an archive retention period beyond which the archived information will get deleted from the application. So for example, we have a run deduction report. So the run deduction report archived information will be retained for 90 days and anything beyond that is going to get deleted. So this is definitely going to improve the performance and it will optimize the space utilization in the database. One point that we will have to remember here is that we cannot modify this retention period and it cannot be configured to suit our needs. So it is going to be preset in the system. The next feature is run balance exception report support for Excel and CSV. So when we are running the payroll reports, we all would have seen a report category parameter. So this is nothing but it is the delivery option and the output format that we want the report to get downloaded with. So this delivery option can be multiple. So we can have a PDF format, Excel and CSV. So when a report has multiple formats available, there is a report category parameter which is there in the report flow as a parameter, and you can choose the format in which you want to download the output. So as of today, there is no report category parameter in the balance exception report, and the default format is PDF. So with 22C, Oracle is bringing in a report category parameter to the run balance exception reports, and they are also adding Excel and CSV formats to it. So we'll have three options in the list of values: balance exception report in CSV, balance exception report in PDF, and balance exception report in Excel format. So you can choose the format that you want to download the data with. If you are not giving any report category parameter value, then the default PDF output is generated. So this is going to be again a user experience thing where users can download the balance exception reports in Excel, which is very, very useful than the PDF because Excel is always useful in comparing the data. The next feature is payroll validation archive report enhancements. So this is very specific to the UK payroll. So the payroll validation archive for UK provides messages by comparing the data in the application, which is very important for payroll, and it generates the error and warning messages accordingly. So this report is usually run before the payroll processes is executed, and the data is corrected, and then the payroll process is run. So this is the standard best practice that's been suggested. So keeping this in mind, Oracle is coming up with enhancements in this particular report. So we have four new and updated messages which are added to the payroll archive report. So an employee nearing the age of 75 years within the next calendar month having an active pension component. So you're going to see this message from 22C upgrade onwards so that you can correct the data and then ensure that there are no errors in payroll. No valid assignments found for statutory deduction, PAE, court orders, and student loans calculation cards. So these are calculation cards which will definitely need an assignment when the work relationship is active and payroll gets processed. So if there are no assignments mapped to these statutory cards, it is worth checking why, and the data has to be corrected before the process is run. So it's a very useful message that is going to come up for us. Missing new starters, pension declaration, or expat notifications. So in the PAYE card, so we need to have at least one of these card components. For an employee, it has to be a new starter, a pension a pension declaration for a pensioner, and an expat notification for an expatriate. So if any of this is missing for the appropriate person, then it's the payroll report is going to give you the message, and you can go and correct it before processing your payroll. Employee who doesn't have minimum two address lines, including postcode. And this is very important from a pension automatic enrollment assessment standpoint. So this enhancement is going to deliver us new and updated messages so that we have a very effective payroll process without errors. So with this, we come to an end to the default and no configuration required features. The next category is quick wins, default with configuration required. So in this category, the first feature is in the time and labor module, enhancement to time card approvals. So now when we are talking about time card approvals, we are going to talk about the project layout. So in the project layout, we can configure approvals using two tasks, project time card approval and project time card approval ELA. So in these two tasks, the number of options or attributes with which we can configure the approvals are very limited at the moment. So 22C is going to give us additional attributes with which we can configure the approvals. For example, this is the list of attributes which are going to be available. So project organization name, project owning business unit name. So we can add this particular attribute and configure approvals, different approvals based on the project owning business unit names. It can be a work type name, or it can be a project role, or a task manager based on the task manager. So you can use these attributes to enhance your approval process as per your business needs. So we are getting this particular feature because we want to configure the approvals as close as the project policies and contracts tell us to do. The next feature in this category is semi-monthly time cards introduction. So now with 22C coming in, we will have the option to configure semi-monthly time cards. So employees can enter the time cards for 15 days and twice a month. So this configuration is always done in the repeating time periods. So in the repeating time periods, we have a period type which is now weekly or monthly. We generally use these values. So we now have the flexibility to select semi-monthly and then map that repeating period in a time card layout as well. So now, if you can see here, employees will have 15 days of time cards wherein they have to fill the 15 days time entries, and the summary page will look like this from 1st to 15th. So for example, the dates will be 1st to 15th if the sample start date that you select in the repeating time period is 1st of the month. So if you're not selecting 1st of the month, then from whichever sample start date that you're going to give, it is going to calculate the time period for 15 days in every time card period. This enhancement is for reporting purposes, and it enhances the policies for the time periods. The next new features fall into the category of quick wins opt-ins. So these are the features where users have to choose whether they want to implement it in their applications or not. The first feature that we are going to talk here is integration with cancel work relationship process in global human resources. This is a time and labor feature. We also spoke about this feature in yesterday's human resource management new feature session from a Hexim standpoint. From a time and labor standpoint, so this allows greater flexibility and data integrity as well. Let's see how. So now when we cancel the time work relationship, it does not prompt that there are time cards existing. So when the work relationship gets cancelled, often the time cards associated with the assignment becomes orphan. So when the time cards are transferred to payroll, this causes huge errors, and this cannot be corrected also, often resulting in raising SRs with Oracle and deleting them in different ways. But now with this new feature coming in, these errors can be greatly reduced because there is no chance of getting orphan time cards, because there won't be a cancel work relationship happening without processing the time cards or without ensuring that the time cards are deleted. So when you're going to cancel the time work relationship, it is going to prompt an error message which will say that existing time cards linked to assignment of the work relationship you're trying to cancel. So either the time and labor manager has to delete these time cards, or it has to be transferred to payroll before the work relationship can be cancelled. So this definitely is going to improve the performance of the system because no orphan records are going to be there, and it is going to improve the data integrity as well. The next feature that we have here is Hcm Alerts for payroll flows. So in the payroll flows, we all know that we have task notifications. When these notifications are sent, when the process starts, ends, in error, results in error or in warning. So these are not very flexible because we cannot make any changes to the notification format or content. So now Oracle has replaced these notifications with Hcm Alerts. Hcm Alerts as a functionality is very flexible, configurable, and we can have user specific or business specific notifications defined. So in the payroll process flows, we are going to have Hcm Alerts functionality enabled in the system using the profile option that is shown here. Oracle is also going to give us predefined Hcm alerts. So there are going to be 5 alerts which are going to be predefined in the system, and each of it is going to send notification for different statuses of the payroll flow. For example, when the payroll flow starts, we are going to get the start flow task alert. When the flow ends, we will be getting the end flow task alerts. So all the payroll process, or I mean flow owners, they will receive the notifications for each of the status which are already defined in the system and enabled. So they will also get notifications when the process completes with alerts, and when process completes with the status of critical alerts, and when the process becomes corrected processes. So we can also define other custom Hcm alerts based on the custom criteria that we have, and we can configure these notifications to suit our business needs. The next feature that we have here is support for time updates in payroll. This is again a very interesting and useful feature. Previously, when time cards are updated and transferred to payroll, the old time card which is already transferred has to be deleted and recreated. So this is what happens in the background. We do not realize that from the UI. But now from 22C, we don't have to the system does not actually delete the entire time card and recreate it. So let's see it with an example. Let's say an employee fills up a time card from Monday to Friday for 8 hours. Now this time card has been transferred to payroll. After the transfer to payroll happens, employee changes the time entry for Monday to 7 hours. So in this case, with 22C upgrade new feature coming into picture, the entire time card does not get transferred to payroll, deleted and gets recreated. Only the Monday's time entry gets transferred to payroll. So this is particularly useful because there are no multiple entries which gets created at the background, and it is very efficient from a database perspective. In order for us to enable this particular feature, we will have to set the Aura Pay INTFC in place update profile option value to Y to enable this particular feature. So now even the retro process, which will identify the updated element and updated time entries, and then will process only those time entries which are updated. So this will also result in reducing the unwanted payroll errors because we are only transferring the updated entries and not the entire time entry here. So for the retro process to work, we will have to add some additional configuration in the retroactive event group, and this is definitely going to be a very useful feature in the 22C upgrade. The next feature which is specific to UK payroll is reporting to my CSP additional assignments that have ended. So in a scenario where there are multiple assignments and the work relationship still exists, and the one of the assignments has got end dated. So previously the end date does not get transferred to the MyCSP and it does not come out in the report. But now with 22C, we can report the assignment end date to MyCSP. So when the assignment is ended using the end assignment or end term function action in the person management assignment page, so this value gets reported in the MyCSP reports. So it also endates all the file. Endates and closes all the files corresponding to that particular assignment. So how do we enable this? We have to associate the end assignment or the end term action that we are going to do to the MyCSP end reason. If we are using action reasons as the MyCSP end reason, so we will have to map all the action reasons to the MyCSP end reason. So this is a very useful feature for the UK payroll, wherein we can endate the additional assignments in the MyCSP report. Now moving on to the next set of features which are not quick wins. The first feature here is an absence module where it says process absences automatically when employees' work schedules changes. Absence management modules actually uses Hcm events to enhance the purpose of the absence evaluation process. So Hcm events are created to trigger and reprocess and reevaluate the absences when any HR transaction is done. For example, when a location is changed or a position is changed, and if the absences have to be re-evaluated, the Hcm functional events functionality was used, and it can be used to reprocess the and re-evaluate the absences. Now in 22C, Oracle is bringing in a greater ability wherein we can use the Hcm events to reprocess and re-evaluate the absences when the work schedule changes. This is very important because work schedule changes often result in the absence entry changes as well. So a re-evaluation or reprocessing would definitely be required, and this was causing a lot of errors when it was getting transferred to payroll. But now with the new functionality in place, we can configure the absence entries to automatically reprocess the absences when the employee's work schedule changes. So let's see how this is done. So in the HCM Experience Design Studio, we have something called as event conditions. So in the event conditions, we have to create new event conditions which will include the work schedule attributes and which will enable which will help us to reprocess the absences. So in here, we'll have to provide a name, code, and use the condition details to create an attribute related to work schedule. So once this event condition is created, we will have to map this event condition to the absence type. So in the absence type page, we will be getting an additional details tab. In this additional details tab, we can add the events which we have created in the previous step. And once we add the events, we also have the option to choose a response, whether we want to reprocess or reevaluate the absences. And based on this criteria, the absences get evaluated. So after this setup is done, we need to schedule or run the process events schedule process. And once that is done, all the events are going to get automatically reprocessed. And this is going to definitely reduce lot of payroll errors when absence entries are getting changed because of work schedule changes. And it reduces manual intervention from the user side as well. The next feature that we are going to talk about is in time and labor module and in enhancements to time entry. So this enhancement is about compensatory time absence plan attributes. So in the application, we have an option to choose the compensatory time attributes in the time card. So when users have multiple assignments and when the compensatory time values are different for different assignments, currently we do not have the flexibility to choose the compensatory time based on the assignment. In 22C, Oracle is bringing in this feature wherein we can show the valid values for the selected assignment in the time cards. So this can be done by using the new filtered data source field which is available in the time layout. So this new filtered data source has to be used, created, and it has to be used in the time card layout. And we can use this field to populate the time card field, and it can also be used in the calculations. So this enhancement will definitely reduce the time reporting errors arising from the compensatory time absence plan. The next feature is enhancement to time card processing. So if we have any assignment changes in the time card during the time card period, it was very difficult to actually extract the assignment details and process the time card and the calculation rules. With 22C, Oracle is going to deliver us a sample pass formula with the time calculation rule type, and this formula is going to access all the HR assignment record changes. So any assignment changes that has happened in the time card period, we will be able to access that and do our time calculation rules according to the HR data which is available. So we can create a custom formula based on this sample formula and enhance our business rules in the time calculation rule templates. This provides greater control and we can provide accurate results in the time calculations. So earlier we had issues when we were trying to access the HR data when assignment changes happened, but now this sample has been provided by Oracle itself. The next feature is going to be autocomplete rules for assigned payroll objects in local and global transfer. In the local and global transfer responsive page, so we have the payroll section wherein if we want to default the payroll based on the transfer details that we are providing in the HR in the HR attributes, so we will be able to do it from 22C onwards using the autocomplete rules. For example, let's say we have multiple payrolls defined in the system and the payroll is different for different legal employers. The payroll is different for different business units or the payroll is different for different locations. So based on the business rules, we will be able to create the autocomplete rules and then map the payroll in as per the rule that we are going to set up. So as we all know, autocomplete rules is not available by default. We need to raise a service request with Oracle to enable autocomplete rules. And once it is enabled, we can use the Hexim Experience Design Studio and we can configure the autocomplete rules to set up the business specific rules. So once this is done, whenever there is a local and global transfer happens for an employee, the rules are evaluated and the appropriate payroll name can be defaulted based on the business rules. So this provides much flexibility and reduces human errors due to users trying to enter the multiple payrolls in case of multiple payrolls. The next feature in global payroll is payroll flows outbound API notifications. So if we want to process a particular task and notify a third party application, third party server to say that a particular task has completed in a payroll flow and process few non-payroll activities in the third party application, we can use the payroll flows outbound API notifications feature. So this notification feature is going to provide us with an API which will enable us to contact and communicate the downstream server. So let us assume that we have a payroll process, which when completed, we want to trigger a particular set of activities in the downstream server. So we can establish a communication using this particular feature between Fusion Payroll as well as the downstream application in a secured way, and we can ensure that the notification message of payroll status is sent to the downstream server. So, and then we can automate the other processes in the downstream server. This is particularly useful when we want to integrate multiple servers, and this is done in a very seamless and secured way as well. The next feature is very specific to UK payroll, LGPS annual pensionable pay frequencies. So in the calculation of annual pensionable pay frequencies, currently the default value is monthly. But however, Oracle is now enhancing this particular functionality by providing multiple frequencies for reassessing the pensionable pay. So the new frequencies that will be available from 22C are annual, semi-annual, quarterly, and monthly. So in order for us to achieve this flexibility, Oracle is providing us with a calculation card called Public Sector Payroll Information. So this has to be set up at the PSU or TRU level. So in this particular calculation card, we will be having two fields, the assumed pensionable pay proration units and the calculation rate frequency. So the calculation rate frequency is the one where we can set it up, whether it can be an annual value, it can be a semi-monthly value, it can be a quarterly value, or it can be a monthly value as well. So even though we know that every April the pensionable pay has to be reassessed, the pension band has to be reassessed. So if business wants to do it periodically based on a different frequency, there is this flexibility to do that as well. Now these values are set up at the PSU or TRU level. So if we want to override this at the employee level, so in that case, we can do it in the benefits and pensions calculation card. In the benefits and pension calculation card, that is also going to get enhanced in the way that we are going to get two new fields. The first one is annualized permanent pensionable pay override. When we provide a value in this particular field, this value is going to be considered in the pension calculations. And there is another checkbox which is going to come up from 22C, recalculate monthly. If this is checked, it is not going to consider the annualized permanent pensionable pay value, and it is going to consider the monthly eligible compensation for assessing the pension values. So this feature provides better user experience and it is in line with the business requirements as well. The next feature that we have is also for UK payroll. Send PAE notification letters through email. So this is a pension regulation stipulated requirement wherein pension automatic enrollment notification letters to be sent through email to the employees. So there are two prerequisites for us to use this particular feature. One, there must be a valid email address so that the email notifications can be received. And the second one, the date of birth must exist. It is very important for the PAE process as such. So now, if the delivery options or the delivery preferences at the employee level is set to paper, then it must be changed to online or paper. So only in that case, the email notifications are sent to the employees. Also, if we want to configure the email notifications, we have to use the BIP or BI publisher work area to create the templates, notification templates, and then use the notification templates and map it to the Hcm extract delivery options. So once we do that and we select the preference as email, the email notifications will start flowing to the employees. So there needs to be some level of configuration and testing which is required in the send PAE notification letters through email feature. With this, we have seen all the 27 new features which are going to come up in the 22C release for workforce management and payroll. The next section that we have is replaced or removed features. So there is just one removed feature in 22C. No features are replaced. So that feature is in the time and labor module, removal of expediting time for payroll reprocessing. So when the time card is updated, we have seen that there is an expedite payroll checkbox and we also have an override payment method and override check printer LOVs which are available. So when this value is checked, so it often creates problems in the retro pay process. So, and since there is no uptake from multiple customers, so Oracle has decided to remove this particular feature from the edit time card page. So now by removing this particular feature, the time card may not have any issues while it is getting transferred to payroll and the retro pay process is being run. So this feature will not be available for use from 22C onwards. With this, we come to the closing of the new features summary of 22C workforce management and payroll. Hardik, over to you.
Vidya, thank you for the wonderful insights. Before we quickly move to the Q&A, we'll have the quick poll. We won't take much time of yours. I'd like to know with the quick poll your area of interest, whether it's technology innovation, managed services, whether it's value-based analytics, which is adding massive value to many of our customers, or it's cloud transformation. If you need any information on any of these, you can reach out to the dedicated project manager or the service manager, and we'll be happy to arrange one-to-one session if needed at all. We all leavers would also like to tell you that we'll be sending you the presentation PDF and the recording session in a few days' time. I'll be closing the poll now, and if there's any question you can do ask us. As of now, there was only one question which was answered through chat or a question panel, but if you do have any other questions, you can ask us. There's one question, so we have a panelist, so if you can take that up, please. And just one more poll before you'll leave us on the scale of 1 to 5. That how was the experience on today's session, please? Your feedback will help us improving going forward. We'll be also sending you test scripts to test the new features. along with the thank you email. And if you do have questions at the later stage, you can also write to us, write to the project manager. They'll forward to the or the consultants. They'll forward it to the team leaders, and we'll answer you as quickly as we can. And we're closing the poll, and we'll take you quickly through, as we don't have any question, we'll take you through the upcoming sessions quickly so that you can pass the message to your colleagues if they would like to be part of it. So we have finance coming in tonight, HR help desk and ORC, supply chain talent management on 12th, benefits and compensation on 13th, so please do register. And the very last poll, if you can please let us know, have you attended any previous advisory sessions earlier? Last poll, we'd like to thank you everyone for being available today for today's session. Thank you so much once again. We'll be closing the poll, and we are done for today's session, and we'll see you next time. We're closing the poll, and please do register to be part of the upcoming sessions. Thank you once again. Thank you all.